Hello, everyone. I'm Scott Shafer, and I am a drum instructor here at Honolulu Music Lessons Workshop. Today, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about some basic fundamentals for drumming. We're going to cover grip, hand technique, and we'll get into some basic groove playing. It's very important that when you first start on any instrument and drums, that you have a good foundation and you don't develop any bad habits, which is easy to do because if you develop a bad habit, something I found out the hard way, because I went through that as a youngster, it takes twice as long to correct the bad habit as it does to develop it. So very important that you got to, from the get-go, you're using good technique, proper technique, and this will employ what I like to call a concept of mine, not mine, but I like it and I use it. So I've adopted it, and it's basically using the idea of minimum effort, maximum results. It's challenging enough to play the instrument, so we want to make it as effortless as possible. So let's get right into it. Let's talk about some basic hand technique. And I like to use the basketball metaphor. Drumming and basketball have a lot in common. When you bounce a ball, you use your wrist in this sort of motion, right? Back of the hand facing up. This is the way our wrist moves the freest. We get the greatest range of motion, right? Put a stick in my hand. Now, if I was to have my hand in this position, that range of motion is hindered. It's not quite as free as the back of the hand facing up. And now we use the basketball analogy, bounce a ball like that. And also when we bounce a ball, our fingers aren't static. It's not like we bounce it. You kind of move your fingers as well as your wrist. So this is where drumming comes into play. It's very similar. Now, we want to use the stick's desire to bounce to our advantage. Minimum effort, maximum result. So if I just take the stick and hold it in my hand like this and I drop it, you can see without any effort from me, my hand is perfectly still. The stick wants to bounce. So we want to use that natural tendency, physics, if I may, want to use that to our advantage. So therefore, with a grip, I use I'll talk a little bit about different grips at this point in time. I use what's called the German grip or match grip with the back of my hands facing up and thumbs pointing, to the sides. And I've got my shoulders relaxed, arms relaxed. You want to be like, if this is your neutral position, you want to be as close to that as possible. You don't want to be like you're riding a bike or squeeze in. Perfectly relaxed. Minimum effort, maximum results. Now, with this grip, I find I get the greatest range of motion. I'm going to talk now a little bit about other grips. You may have seen what's called traditional grip. Now, I'm going to give you a little history lesson on this. This is, as the story was told to me, this grip was developed during the Civil War, and when drums were used in battle to march into battle, and they used the drum as a form of communication. There were no cell phones back then, and I don't think they had portable phones. I don't quote me on the history. They may not have phones back. I don't know, but I know that they didn't have phones, and so they used the drum. Different rhythms meant different things in the battlefield. So they had to march into battle with these big drums, and I don't know if you've seen those old timey pictures where the drum is this big deep drum, and they couldn't put it, flat like a drum is at a drum set because their legs would bang into the drum, and they couldn't run. And in the heat of battle, you want to run. So they would tilt the drum. Now imagine, the drum surface is tilted like this, and with a match grip, that's going to be really awkward. And that's when some super smart, inventive person thought, what if we change the way we hold the stick? Drum's tilted like this, and what if we change our grip? Now we can get to the drum great. We got all kinds of, mobility, and elbows relaxed. This works great. Now, a lot of American drummers came out of the Civil War, and this is before the invention of the drum set. So they got used to this grip. And then the invention of the drum set came along, and there's a stand, and as you can see, you can adjust that drum any old way. But they would tilt the drum to accommodate this grip. And so this is a hotly debated topic. I'll save that for another episode. But the teacher that told me this story, he used match grip, and he told me, listen, the sticks are matched and your hands are matched, just opposite. So it only makes sense that your grip is matched. So that's my little story, my little history lesson about traditional grip. It works. It's a viable grip if you're going to be in marching band. There'll be stick tricks, back sticking, stuff like this that I never really did, but and then across to the guy next to you, all kinds of stick tricks where this kind of thing works great. But for drum set playing, for my taste and what I find to be the most useful and sensible, I use the match grip. Now, with match grip, there's two different types of match grip. There's what's called the German grip, the back of your hand facing up, and that's what I talked about earlier, where you get the greatest range of motion with your wrists, and then there's the French grip with the thumbs pointing up, or timpani grip as it's known. And it's more of something where you use the fingers. And sometimes I'll use that when I'm playing ride cymbal patterns. But for the most part, I'm using match grip. So let's talk a little bit more about this. You want to have your hands as relaxed as possible. To give you an idea how relaxed I try to keep my grip. When I'm playing in an outdoor event and it's windy, I can actually feel the wind wanting to move the sticks because I want to let the stick bounce. I want to work with the stick. You shouldn't be, it's not a good idea to play into the drum and, force. Nothing should be forced. Everything should be as relaxed as possible. I'll say it again, minimum effort, maximum results. So you want to have all your fingers on the stick, lightly, just enough to keep the stick in your hand. You want to keep this area, this is called your fulcrum, you want to keep that open. If you find that that's closed, that's just an indication, it's a sure sign that your grip is too tight. So open fulcrum, back of the hand facing up, fingers real relaxed, maybe about 1.5 inches. You don't want to go too far back, that puts too much weight forward and the stick's not going to bounce as much. And then same thing, you don't want to go too far forward, you're not going to have enough weight to create a nice bounce. So about that much out the back end. If you were to look from above, you would see, as if I can do this, the stick's the butt end of the stick is gonna come out the back of your hand like that. You shouldn't, if it looks like that, then you want to change your grip. Back of your hand facing up. Well, we'll talk a little bit about the stick itself. Why not? We've got time. This is the tip of the stick. This is the shoulder of the stick, and I may make reference to these sometime during this video. This is what's called the basic shaft of the stick, and this is the butt of the stick. There you go, anatomy of a drumstick. Now with match grip, you want to start about 1/2 inch from the drum, and you want to have your strokes. Now that we're using the bounce, I talked about that, right? We're using the bounce, but unlike where you bounce a basketball and it's this perpetual motion, sometimes slower strokes, you're not going to just be keeping bouncing away. So what happens is the stick hits the drum, or the pad as the case may be. See my hands there? Yep. Stick hits the pad, and it's you want to stop it. You want to stop it down there. And you'll see why, even more so when we start playing grooves, why this is important. Stop it down there. But you don't want to have it, if you just completely relax, it'll come back up like that. Which sometimes that is a useful stroke. I rarely use that, but it is a thing. But for the most part, your basic single strokes are going to look like this. The back of the hand facing up. You start the stick about 1/2 inch from the surface, whether it be a pad or a drum, and you stop it. Hits, right? The stick hits. If I could go super slow motion, yeah, the stick hits, it bounces back, and you stop it there, not up here. So your basic strokes, your basic single strokes, look like this, right? Stop it 1/2 inch from the drum. Not playing into the drum. That will choke the sound of the drum. You want to imagine you're bringing the sound out of the drum and not forcing it into the drum. So I think that covers basic grip fairly well. Hope that helped. Now let's move on to just playing some basic note values, playing in time. Here's another one of my little concepts or sayings that I love. I use this often, and it is, if you're not playing in time, you're not playing drums, right? If you're not in time, it's the sound is random, and it's you might as well just throw your drums down a flight of stairs. Boom, boom. It doesn't sound like that's nothing I want to dance to. It's not grooving. So playing in time is very important. As drummers, people will lean on us. They'll count on us to play in time because there are three. I almost said four. There's three basic elements of music. Those basic elements, like the primary colors, right? When you learn to color, basic elements of music are melody, harmony, and rhythm. Those are your three very root basic elements of music. And with drums, we can sort of imply melody. Here's one I like to do. But, we're a little limited there. Harmony would be, two notes at the same time. We're a little limited there. But when it comes to rhythm, that's our thing. So we really need to develop our internal clock, our sense of time. Everyone should learn to play in time. Every instrument, it's, there's basic elements of music. Every instrument should have it. But with drums, it's extra important. We're the machine. We're the timekeeper in the band, primary timekeeper. Everybody should be a timekeeper, but like I said, the drums are very important in keeping the groove together. So in developing our sense of time, our sense of rhythm, we want to use a metronome. The metronome is your friend. Metronome is a timekeeping device, much like a clock, and you can set different tempos, how fast or how slow a song is. When you hear somebody, if you've ever seen a live band, they'll count off a song and they'll give you, 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're telling you two things: how fast or how it could be 1, 2, 3, 4, faster song, or 1, 2, slower. They're telling you, one, the tempo of the song, right? How fast or slow it is. And two, they're telling you what the time signature is for the song. So at this point, I'd like to direct your attention to this worksheet I have up here. And these are your basic note values. 90%, if I was to put a number, 90% of music, I would say, safely, are built off of just these three basic note types. And the first note type, see if I can grab this here. First note type are these. They're quarter notes. Let's talk a little bit about what's happening over here. These two numbers, that is your time signature. And that top number tells you how many beats are in a measure. This is a measure or bar. You've maybe heard the phrase measure bar music. Same thing. Means the same thing. It's how music is measured. Here's another measure of music here, and another measure of music here. Top number means number of beats per measure, and the bottom number means what note type gets your pulse. So this means we've got 4 beats in a measure, and that 4 stands for the quarter note. Quarter note, basic, very basic note value that all the other rhythms are built on top of. This is a repeat sign, a little bracket here, and we'll get into that later. But let's talk about the quarter note pulse, and we'll talk about playing that in time with your proper grip. So a metronome, I like to start with the metronome marking of 60. There'll be every metronome has a little number, your tempo indicator. And 60 is a good place to start because it's like seconds on a clock. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's play some quarter notes. You can see here I've got, like, if you're right-handed, you're going to want to lead with your right hand. If you're left-handed, you would just switch this around and lead with, everything would be opposite. But I play right-handed, so I'm using this as an example. And we would play right, left, and count 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Remembering what I talked about with grip, right? Starting and stopping half an inch from the drum. 1, 2, 3, 4. These are quarter notes. There you go. Now let's talk a little bit about eighth notes. Next measure over. You can see there's twice as many notes here. And so the counting would be 1 and 2. There are twice as many notes, so based off of this quarter note pulse, so that means those eighth notes are going to be twice as fast. At this tempo, Eighth notes would be counted 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and played right, left, right, left. Same stroke, right? Same technique. Can you see my hands? Yep. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and back of the hand facing up, sticks moving straight up and down. Nice clean strokes, right? Getting a nice clean. We're bringing that sound out of the drum, playing eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Now let's talk about the next notes. You can see there's a doubling thing right here. Now we got, well, look at that. There's 4 notes. You can see these are grouped in groups of 4. And so it's the same tempo based on these quarter notes, but now we've got 4 per beat. And these are what are called 16 notes because you're going to have 16 of those in a measure. So these are going to be twice as fast again as your eighth notes. So at this tempo, at 60 on our metronome, the quarter note equals 60. 16 notes are going to sound like this. 1 E, 2 E, 3 E, 4 E, 1 E, 2 E, 3 E, 4 E, 1 E, 2 E, 3 E, 4 E, 1. And now you stay as relaxed as possible while playing these, you know? Let the stick do the work. Minimum effort, maximum results. 1 E, 2 E, 3 E, 4 E, 1 E, 2 E. Very relaxed. I'm barely using any of my muscles. I'm just kind of going with the flow, right? Everything's nice. Let the stick do the work. Super relaxed grip. 2 in the right place. Let's jump in. 1, 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1. Okay? So now you want to be able to, a good place to start is to be able to play this. Now let's talk a little bit more about these repeat signs, right? A repeat sign, that means when you see the bracket facing the other way, that means you jump back to the first bracket, right? So this would be what I would call a 3-measure loop. First measure quarter notes, second measure 8 notes, and third measure 16 notes, and then we go back to here. So this is a nice loop just to get you used to the grip and how the sticks feel and playing in time. So there's a lot going on here, right? You would think, oh, that sounds, sounds easy. It's kind of boring. Well, we want to jump in. I know I sure did when I first started. I wanted to rock out, but I really realized if you get a good solid foundation for your drumming, it makes everything you do after that, you build on that, and makes it much cleaner, sounds much better. It's like when you build a house, right? You build a house and you've got this. First thing they do is lay that big concrete slab. I don't know if you've ever seen a house being built, but that's, the slab is the foundation of the house. And that's what the house sits on. And if that foundation is weak, the house will come crumbling down. Same thing with your drumming. If you don't have these basic concepts and basic ideas for grip and playing in time, and anything you build on that is going to be wobbly, wonky, and you're not going to like it, and you're going to have a hard time playing with other musicians. So let's do it right. Get off on the right foot and make it solid. So here we go. Let's do this loop. We're going to play this 3-bar loop that I just talked about at 60 beats per minute, and I'll count myself in. I'll give it what's called a two beats outside, and I'll be saying 3, 4 quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4 8 notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a quarter notes. 3, 4, 8 notes. 16 notes. Counted. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1, 2, 3, 4. 8 notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 16 notes. 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1. Also a good idea, a little sidebar. It's nice to try and practice at different volumes. Soft. louder, you know, because it feels different at different volumes. The drum set is a very dynamic instrument. We can play whisper quiet, and we can go from a pin drop, aye, to a roar. You know, much more of a dynamic range than, say, an acoustic piano or acoustic guitar. So we want to be aware of that. You know, music is one of the cool things that I love about music is it will have different dynamic levels. So we want to work on that as drummers. Now, let's talk a little bit more. I like to use this little 20 bar worksheet. It's called the 20 bar exercise that I got from the Ted Reed book, Syncopation. And it's just not, it's simple rhythms um, that you can see here. Let's see if I can zoom that up. Oh no, that's not what I wanted. Excuse my technical prowess or lack thereof. Okay, this is the 20 bar exercise. I'm going to keep it just, let's zoom it back out. Okay, that's a good, geez Louise. Let's get that back. Bear with me, folks. Okay, 20 bar exercise. Here it is. I'm scared to zoom in, but I will try. Okay, let's look at the first couple of measures here. You can see here we've got our quarter note pulse down here, and we've got 16 notes on beat 1, 8 notes on beat 2, and then beats 3 and 4 are 8 notes. You see that beat 2 is grouped in just 2 notes, and beats 3 and 4 are a group of 4. This is just to, it's a visual thing, just to observe what's called the imaginary bar line, the middle point, right? The middle point of the measure is between, 1, 2, and then there's the middle point, 3 and 4. And so these 8 notes, this group of 2 and these group of 4, they're 8 notes, same rate. It's strictly a visual thing, so you can see the division, the imaginary. They call that the imaginary bar line in the midpoint. You'll see down here, this measure down here. What happened? I'm getting some interference here. I don't want that at all. What? Oh. There we go. You can see this measure right here. Beats 2 and 3, they're both 8 notes, but they're split because that's in observance of that imaginary bar line. All right. Try not to touch this technology and me. Sometimes we're not friends. All right, so let's talk about this little exercise. It's a fairly simple exercise, mostly just 16 notes and 8 notes, just designed to get you comfortable with the grip and playing in time. You want to make sure that your sound is even. You don't want to be one-sided on either one side. You want to make sure that the sticks are coming up same height, nice and relaxed. So even volume, even rhythm is the goal here. So I'm going to put the metronome back on at 60, and I'm going to play that first measure. Okay, here we go, 60. So this first measure would be counted as 3, 4, 1 E and a 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 E and a 2 and 3 and 4. Played 1 E and a 2 and 3 and 4. 1 E and a 2 and 3 and 4. 1 E and a 2 and 3 and 4 and so, like I said, this is all just mixing 16 notes and 8 notes, just designed to get you comfortable playing in time and comfortable with the grip, because it's all new. It's a lot of information, and so we want to get that foundation happening. So this is a good place to start. So this next measure, we'll play a couple of these. This next measure, 8 notes on beat 1, 16 notes on beat 2, 8 notes on beat 3, 16 notes on beat 4. So at this tempo, that would be counted 3, 4, 1 and 2 E and a 3 and 4 E and a 1 and 2 E and a 3 and 4 E and a 1 and 2 E and a 3 and 4 E and a 1 and 2 E and a 3 and 4 E Let's go straight to the next measure. Get the idea, right? Now this measure right here, beats 1, 2, 3, and 4. Counted 1 and 2 and 3 and a 4 and a 1 and 2 and 3 and a 4 and a 1 and 2 and 3 and a 4 and a 1. Right? Next measure. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3. Now you notice I'm counting out loud while I'm playing. It's a great skill to develop. It helps you internalize rhythms. It's your brain telling your hands and your feet. Later on, we'll get into that. It's your brain communicating to your limbs, reinforcing what you're going to play and when you're going to play it. Now, what I just did, those were all what I would call one-bar loops. You just play one bar at a time, repeat it, right? Start off like that, simple, less to remember. But then when you get comfortable with those one-bar loops, try to do this all in a row. And let's do that right now. That first line. So I'm going to play this all in a row. I can't, scroll and play at the same time, but you'll follow along. You can just count along with these quarter notes on the bottom, and I'll play this whole line all in a row, and I'll stop right there. Beat 1 of the next line down. So here we go. I'll count myself in. 3, what? 3, 4, 1 E and a 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 E and a 3 and 4 E and a 1 and 2 and 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and 4 E and a 1. Let's do that one more time just for fun. 3, 4, 1 E and a 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 E and a 3 and 4 E and a 1 and 2 and 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E, 3 and 4 E and a 1. Now I'll do it without me saying anything so you can hear and see. 3, I'll count myself in. 3, 4. There you go. So those are your basic note values. And there you go, playing those in time. You want to make sure you're playing in time. Make sure you're locked in, really listen. It's not a bad idea actually to record yourself playing. It's the best tool of all the education I've had and all the teachers I've had, and I've had plenty. I think the best learning tool for me has been a little handheld recorder. I take those to all my gigs and I record myself because the tape or the audio chip, whatever, I'm old school. That does not lie, right? The audio does not lie, and sometimes you feel you're playing and it feels great, and then you listen back to the recording and you can hear, you're not playing, so you can really focus in on hearing what you did, and that's just been the best way to learn. Really be critical. Am I really on? Am I spot on with the metronome? Am I playing in time? Does it feel good? Does it sound good? Really good tool. So I recommend that highly. Now let's get into some basic groove playing. You notice I use the word groove and not beat. Now this is because I like to save the word beat for spots within a measure, like we talked about. Beat 1, 2, beat 3, beat 4. Those are different spots within a measure. A groove is all those beats put together to make maybe a 1-bar groove, might be a 2-bar groove. It's the culmination of beats that make up a groove. So let's talk about just very basic groove playing. And first I want to cover what you would do, your hand pattern for a very basic groove. And I'll play like this, but everyone's different, and there's if you're lefty, you're going to play like this. Everything's going to be turned around. I want to talk a little bit about that. I'm actually left-handed, and I learned right-handed because that's what I saw, and it was just mimicry. I just, oh, okay, this is what you do, and off I go. But I've seen maybe three different drummers in my lifetime, maybe four that play left-handed, and then there's also open-handed playing. Lefty drumming is real rare. I felt it worked to my advantage that I'm left-handed and I learned right-handed. It kind of, made things a little easier when I was developing what's typically the weak hand. I was more or less developing my right hand to lead. Um, so more on that. Maybe that's something for a different chapter. But I will use the right-handed approach to playing grooves, and the basic hand pattern I'll play. I'm leading with the right hand, so I'm going to be playing eighth notes in the hi hat on the hi hat with my right hand. I'm playing two and four at the same time underneath those eighth notes with my left hand. So the basic hand pattern, I'll play eighth notes first on the right hand, the hi hat. So that's going to, remember those eighth notes are counted. One and two and three and four, and one and two and three and four. And so while I'm playing this, I'm going to play the left hand underneath the snare drum, on the snare drum underneath the hi-hat. Where am I? One and two and three and four, and one and two and three and four, and one and two. Can you hear that metronome? You want to really lock in. Make sure you're playing in time. One and two and three and four. So let's talk a little bit about the technique involved in doing that. You want to keep that stroke. You see my hand? Yeah, there it is. You want to keep that stroke nice. Same idea, right? Start and end, a half an inch from the drum. If you're doing this and playing on top of that, you're gonna run into your stick, and that's not a good thing. So, economy of motion, right? Minimum effort, maximum results. I'll say that a lot because it's important. Okay, so I like to use the drawbridge analogy. When you're playing on two and four, both hands, they kind of, so the right hand gets out of the way. One and two, out of the way like that, One and two and three and four and one and two. So we come down and that left hand stays there. So again, basic hand technique. One and two and three and four and one and two and three and four and one and two and three and four and one and two. You get the idea. All right, now let's bring in the right foot that plays the bass drum. The pedal, bass drum pedal. I wish I could pull that off, but I'll use that. You'll see that it's a pedal is an instrument in and unto itself. It's so there's a technique, there's a right way, and I don't want to say wrong, but let's be honest. There are wrong ways to play the bass drum. Technique is super important, so we want to develop proper technique, right? No bad habits, and we want to do that with minimum effort, maximum results. So I'll use my drumstick, is to kind of mimic the pedal. If you've ever seen a bass drum pedal, it's got a spring. I have another one around here, but you can use your imagination. The pedal's got a footboard, and it's got a cam, either chain, sometimes they're direct, and then there's the beater that comes off the camshaft. So let's talk just about the footboard. There's two basic ways to play a bass drum pedal. One would be heel down, flat-footed, and so that would be, if you can imagine this being your foot, everything's flat. You're on your toes, and everything's connected. You always want to keep your foot on the bass drum pedal. Keep your foot in contact with that bass drum pedal all the time, because there's a spring, right? It brings the beater back off the head, off the bass drum head. Beater comes back off the head, and that's because of the spring mechanism. So once you take your foot off that pedal, you're going to lose control. You want to keep your foot on the pedal at all times. Never lift up off the pedal and stomp on it like that. That will not get you good results. So the flat-footed technique works. Sometimes I use it if I'm playing real light stuff, real light passages. But for most contemporary and rock and R&B, if I want to get a little more volume, I'll lift my heel up. Toes are still contacted, right? Never, not lifting your foot off the pedal. Heel up. This way, you can use the weight of your leg. Your leg is like a lever, as is the pedal. The pedal is a lever, so work together. It doesn't take a lot of effort. You're using the weight of your leg for leverage and volume, right? Flat-footed for soft stuff. Heel up for some volume. Now, let's introduce the bass drum to that hi-hat pattern. So, the very first pattern I like to introduce is just playing those 8 notes on the hi-hat with 1 and 3 on the bass drum. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 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 Right? Now, you know what's coming next, putting it all together. So bear in mind that if you're playing the bass drum and the snare, you find that if that's happening, you're playing the bass drum and the snare drum at the same time, then something's gone awry. You want a bass drum, separate those two, right? Bass drum on 1 and 3, snare drum on 2 and 4, 8 notes on the hi-hat. So be patient with this because you're doing 3 different things at once. That's what makes it fun, right? New skill, it's a challenge, right? I never use the word, I'll use this word I'm about to say once, and the word is hard. Nothing is hard, right? You see guys, excellent drummers, what you don't see is the thousands upon thousands of hours they put in. They make it look easy, but they put in the time. But they can do it. They put their pants on one leg at a time like you and I do, so you can do it too. Nothing is hard. Things are challenging. Things are new, right? Because I like to stay away from that word because when you say, oh, it's hard, you're telling yourself the next thing would be can't. Hard and can't are related. They're brothers almost. And so, don't say it's hard. It's not. It's just challenging and new. And everyone likes a challenge, so let's go. So you're going to play that bass drum on 1 and 3 with the 8 notes on the hi-hat, and then the snare drum on 2 and 4. Sometimes you can take a gradual approach. Let's put the metronome on and get into that. Where you go, start with the hand. Sorry about that. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Let's add the bass drum. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. That's a snare. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and nice and relaxed, right? Everything working together. 3 and 4. Make sure when you're doing this, you're playing in time. You're locking in with that metronome. All right. So I'd like to introduce, and let's play a couple variations on that groove. I like to use this worksheet. It's, I forget the author's name, but I use it. I have just copies of it that I took from a book a long time ago. And it's just, it's 12 different grooves on this worksheet. Hopefully this computer will cooperate with me. No, we're not working together. Next page. No? There it is. Hey, technology likes me today. This is as you can see up here, it says I scribbled it in because it got cut off, but this is bass drum variations, 12 different grooves, and they call them exercises, whatever, they're the same thing. And right here on the top, I'm going to introduce you to drum set notation. So these X's on the top, that's your hi-hat pattern. That's your hi-hat line. And the next space down below those, these are your snare drums. See, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then this line down here, I hope you can hear me. That line on the bottom, that's your bass drum line. So if we look at all these 12 different exercises, grooves, you'll see the bass drum is the only thing that's changing, right? This hi-hat pattern, snare pattern is the same. Hi-hat eighth notes, 2 and 4 on the snare. The only thing that changes underneath is the bass drum. This is because the reason I like to use this is because our hands are, we use our hands more than our feet. But you want to, in drumming, you want to try and get, equal coordination, equal ability in all your limbs. So this is kind of a way to play catch up with the bass drum. So, changing patterns with the bass drum, get that foot working. What you might find happens is your foot wants to kind of scoot ahead. It wants to jump ahead in the time. So don't let it. Lock into that metronome. So let's add the foot. I'm going to bass drum variation now. We can see on this first pattern we've got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 bass drums on beat 3. So that pattern would sound like this when we put it all together. That mic again, right? Here's your hand pattern. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 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 and 1. Right? Let's go to the next one. Next one's got 2 bass drums on beat 1, and over here 2 bass drums on beat 3. So it's going to be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. But at 60, it'll be a little faster. Here we go. 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 4. We will rock you. Right? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Nice and relaxed the whole time. Now I'm going to move a little quicker. Let's look at this next one. Now with this, at first glance you would say, I love 1 bass drum there, 2 bass drums there. I just played that. No, these come earlier than these. 1 and 2 and 3 and 3. So right after beat 2, right? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. At 60, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 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 4, 1 more, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Right in time. Not playing in time, we're not playing drums. Okay, last one before I go. And this is just switched around, right? Switched around. Now we got 2 bass drums right away. 1 and 2, and then 1 bass drum on 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Before I play that, let's just look at some of these. You can see these other examples. They add more bass drums, right? 1 and 2 and 3 and, right? So play those accordingly as they're written. Make sure you're playing them in time, locking with that metronome. Really be aware of your foot, the technique with the pedal. Keep your foot on the pedal at all times. Make sure that it's not getting ahead of the metronome, that you're locked in. So that last one will sound like this. 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 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 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So that's it. That's a lot of information. So I'll leave you with this. have fun with this stuff. Take your time. Be very relaxed. Remember, not a bad idea, a very good idea to record yourself, video yourself playing, listen back, make sure that you're really spot on, everything's comfortable, everything should be real relaxed, minimum effort, maximum results. If you're not playing in time, you're not playing drums. That's simple. All right, I had a lot of fun doing this. I hope you got something out of this. I hope you enjoyed this. I look forward, give a call to the studio. I'd love to have you as a student. So be well, happy drumming, and I'll be signing out.